Okay, hi. My name's Rob Trumbour. I'm an educator. I teach at Wentworth Institute of Technology. I'm an artist, practicing artist and architect. And my primary interest in, I guess my relevance to this group is in my interest in activating public space. Can you hear me okay? Okay. So I started a group about 7 years ago where we, essentially a group of artists and architects, students, and we've done a whole series of experimentations in public space, and it's all temporary work. So everything that you'll see here in these slides is temporary. If I can just stand back here so I can see. Is temporary work ranging from a few hours to a few months. One of our big interests is in community involvement as well as collaboration. So trying to define any kind of authorship or connection personally to individuals back to the work is hard for us, and it's something that we're actually interested in trying to pursue. So I'm just sort of flipping through some images here, but what I want to get to is some of the work that I've done in my hometown up on the North Shore in Rockport, Massachusetts. So these are some earlier works. But what is so interesting about Rockport is that they actually let you do things, which is kind of cool. And you can actually go into a selectmen's meeting, propose an idea, and a use of a public space. Many of the spaces that we've experimented on are wharfs around town. I think we've at this point built on just about every wharf in town. And the time ranges from a week to 2 weeks, depending on if it's made of ice. It lasts as long as the ice lasts. But we experiment in these spaces. There's also some work here that I'm just going to flip through quickly, which were temporary work again for public events. This was at the Cyclorama a few years back. This was at Exeter Library that involved a performance of music. This was a one-night installation. And again, as I mentioned, I'm an educator, so much of my work also involves dealing with students and getting students to activate public space and finding opportunities to do that for students. This was a temporary installation down on the Fort Point Channel that was designed by students, and it was essentially a mapping or reinterpretation of a trip through the Southwest. This is the piece here, looking down on it from above, a night shot along the Fort Point Channel. So getting to Rockport, which seems really far away from me right now, we proposed a workshop with a group of students last summer. So we had 6 students who were living, sleeping, working constantly for a very short period of time, 12 days. We arranged a public space, use of a public space for a temporary installation, which the students called Interrhythm. And it was up for 3 months, beginning last summer in August. So this is the site, the stone pier that's sort of facing us here in the background. The students are beginning to comprehend the site and what they could begin to pull from it. These are some photographs of the installation being installed. And again, this all happened from beginning to end, happened in 12 days. So we chose a very simple assembly, 2x3s, something that we could very quickly put together. We involved computer software like Rhino and Grasshopper, some computation software in order to generate it quickly and iterate quickly through a series of options, and then had to figure out how to build it. So it was a beginning to end, it was a process of conceiving of an idea as a response to a site, and then executing it in a very short period of time in a very collaborative manner. So the whole idea of authorship sort of falls away. This piece was lit at night as well as during the day, and this piece actually coincided with a fireworks display, the first fireworks in Rockport. So what was fun about this project was it just coincidentally happened to coincide with that event, but we we activated a space that was not normally activated. It was a space that was sort of a little bit off to the side, even though it had this amazing view. It's a space in town that doesn't actually get a lot of use. So installing a piece of temporary public art in a space like that can really actually turn the activity around and change the patterns completely. One last project. This was last winter, so imagine being in Rockport on the North Shore in February. It's not exactly the kind of place that you want to venture outside very often, but we took on an installation idea called Wharf Music, and the image here where you can see listening rooms really quickly. We had a composer compose a piece of a viola, a trumpet, and a violin. 3 different sources of sound of that composition spread out across the harbor to points where you couldn't quite identify where the source is coming from. And then we built, we revitalized or sort of took advantage of an existing resource, which were the lobster pots that pile on the wharf. We rearranged them and made rooms. And then we covered it with fabric and lit it, illuminated it. So these sort of things started to function as little lanterns over the course of 3 weeks and 3 performances. So this is the setup. It also involved fire, which was kind of an interesting request to ask for fire in an installation, but they let us. And this is just a shot of the fireworks from last summer. So again, this space went from being pretty inactive to having 300 or 400 people on it in one night. And then lastly, I'll just close with this. We have been asked by the town again to do another piece. So instead of building one large piece, we're actually taking the same idea, the same technique, and spreading it out across 3 or 4 locations. And again, having these pieces stand for a period of about 2 to 3 months through the course of the fall, late summer and fall. These are the 3 sites. Again, all waterfront locations. But I'll sort of end, I guess, with 2 points. One is the idea that art connects people to place, connects buildings to community. Community brings meaning, meaning feeds culture. These are some observations that we've sort of come across and come to over the course of the years where we've been working. And lastly, the idea of collective ownership should override individual authorship in a collaborative process. It's part of how we try and make a connection both to a community and to a group of people who are participating in our work. That's it.